Hello, my book babes, and welcome back to my channel if you're not new here, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Morgan, and I read a lot. And today I thought it might be kind of fun to do a read it or unhaul it challenge. Now, y'all know I do a lot of unhauls, probably about monthly, where I get rid of books that I basically never read, just because they don't seem to pique my interest. However, there is a certain category of book where I do want to keep it because I think I might like it. However, there's a chance I might not. I know it sounds kind of convoluted, but an example of this might be a book that initially during promo I was really hyped about. The concept seemed interesting, but then after it's been out for a while, the reviews are not very good and I'm hearing things I might not like about it. So now I'm unsure, even though initially I was excited about it. Or another example is books I've had on my bookshelf for a very long time and I'm just never getting around to them. So clearly they're not speaking to me very loudly. So it might just be time to read the first chapter or two and see if it's going to grip me at all. And if it's not, then it might just be time to say goodbye. Now I want to put a disclaimer out there. This video is not for a certain type of person, and that is if you do not believe or like that someone might be able to tell if they don't like a book or not by the first chapter. That is what I will be doing today, reading the first chapter of every book that I pick for this challenge and deciding based on literally that first chapter whether or not I'm going to donate it later today because I'm making a run to my local used bookstore, or I'm going to keep it on my shelf to read at a later date. Some people get very offended if you not give a book a very solid chance before either DNFing or donating. I know people that say that the rule should be that you read a book halfway before you DNF. That has and never will be my rule. I think you can DNF a book on the first word if you want to. It literally doesn't matter. There is no consequence. I do feel like there's a slight purity culture in the book community sometimes where you have to do things in this certain way or you're invalid. And I think that's kind of dumb, honestly. It's my books, it's my reading experience. So that's my little disclaimer. Just click off this video if you're not into someone reading a chapter of a book and knowing from that chapter whether or not they want to keep it or not. I know what kind of prose I like and writing style I like. If I'm not going to be gripped by the first chapter, there's literally probably a 90% chance that I DNF the book or I'm not gripped by the book as in its entirety. That's just how my reading experience has been, and I'm going to listen to that intuition and listen to that gut feeling more than anything. With that being said, some of the fun parts about my videos or reading challenges is getting to pick out the books I will be putting on the chopping block for this video. So I thought I'd go through my bookshelves genre by genre and explain to you the certain picks I'm going to be grabbing to see if I want to read it or unhaul them and why. Without further ado, let's go over to my bookshelves and pick the books that will be on the chopping block. I apologize for the moody, shadowy lighting. The sun is not hitting right now, so sorry if you see all my shadow. This is my romance and nonfiction shelf. I feel like there's a lot of romance that I could choose, but I'm trying not to choose more than 2 or 3 books from each section. So I feel like Our Perfect Storm might be a good option because I know people either love it or hate it, and it is a summery romance. So it's one of those books where if I don't read it this summer, I'm not sure I'll read it at all. So I kind of just want to see if Carly Fortune's writing will be for me, as I've never read a book of hers before. So this will be one option. I've also heard mixed reviews about The Shippers ever since it came out. Before it got officially released, I feel like people were hyping it up. They were so excited. And now that it has been released, people are saying it's too cheesy. And I think the last one I'll pick for romance is Blackthorn. This is a dark romance, and it is extremely hit or miss with me with dark romance. Some I really enjoyed, and others I completely despise. So I feel like a dark romance is a good book to pick for a read it or unhaul it because I can usually tell by the author's writing within the first literally 10 pages of a dark romance whether or not it'll be for me. When it comes to my nonfiction, the main one I could think of is maybe Beirut Fragments. This is a collection of older stories that's been republished and known as Outsider Editions. So I got sent all the books that they officially republished, and it says this book is a landmark memoir named a 1990 New York Times notable book that stands as a testament to survival, memory, dignity, and the stubborn beauty of insisting on one's place in the world. So it's a Palestinian story and memoir. The only reason why I'm not sure I will like this or not is because it is a bit older. It got republished, so I'm just not sure what the prose will be like, but I'm curious, so we're gonna add to the pile. All right, this is what we got for romance and nonfiction. Next, we have hardbacks of Weird Girl Lit. We have magical realism and speculative fiction, sci-fi, and short story collection. I think I'm gonna pull Spoiled Milk. This one's also very controversial. I feel like I heard a lot of praise for it when it initially came out, and then more recently people I trust to give me book recs are like DNFing it or saying they really don't like it because the pacing is too slow. So I've been debating on whether or not I want to pick this up or not, so this would be a good time to do it. Same with Superfan. I've had this on my bookshelf for a very long time, like too long. So I just need to see what it's all about. And the last one I'm gonna pull is Moderation. I've heard this is a great first half, poor second half from people I trust. So maybe this challenge is not exactly adequate for this particular book. However, again, I just want to see how I'm feeling by the first chapter or so. I think from sci-fi, I'm going to choose The Ministry of Time. I know, again, this is a very love or hate book. Some people seem to get it and others don't, but I don't really know much about it, period. So I want to see what the prose is like. And for short story collections, I'm going to pick The Age of Calamities. This is technically an ARC, but it was given to me through an ARC trade, not the publisher. It says it's a genre-defined, mind-bending collection of absurdist, funny, and speculative short stories. I think this is also based on like historical fiction characters, life and death on history's unsteady margins, and how to reckon with the blunt force trauma of ill-fated times. So yeah, I don't feel like I've heard that many people talk about it, but the cover really got me, so I'm curious. All right, this is our stack for That Bookshelf: Spoiled Milk, Superfan, Moderation, The Ministry of Time, and The Age of Calamities. Next, we have my mostly thriller section. I'm going to try to target books that I've had on my bookshelf for a long time, or just books that I was initially excited about, but I've heard poor things since. I think the first obvious one is Headlights by CJ Lead. This has gotten such mixed reviews, and so I'm very curious to see how I might find it. I've never read a book by her before, so this was also gifted to me by the publisher, so I hate to not finish it or not try it, but I gotta do my truth, you know? I also think I'm gonna give All the Colors of the Dark a shot. I know this was a very popular book when it got published, but it's been out for a while, and I feel like not much people talk about it nowadays, but it's much more of a thicker book, so I'm just gonna see if I like it or not, to where I wanna be invested this long of a thriller or not. I think the other I'm gonna pick is Majestic Hills. Again, this is technically an ARC copy, but it was given to me by ARC Trade, not the publisher. When I have ARCs on my shelves waiting to be read, I feel like I never really reach for them unless I'm being forced to, because I'm giving it by the publisher specifically. So I feel like I need to read or unhaul some of these ARC trades I've gotten. Next, we have horror. I think I'm going to pick Itch. Again, this is one of those books where I feel like it had a lot of hype initially, but now whenever I see people review it recently, they don't seem to be liking it. So I've also had this on my shelf as a TBR for so long. It's just time I finally figure it out. And I hate to do this, but I'm also going to do Rotten Heart by Kat Dunn. She's a hit or miss author for me. I got this really cool edition from Goldsboro in the UK, but I'm just a little bit worried about the pacing in here, so we shall see if it grips me. I also think I'm going to pick The Hacienda. I like this author in general. However, I've heard that the pacing can be mixed, and I've had this on my TBR for forever. So I just want to see what the prose is like. All right, this is our thriller and horror stack. Next, we have general lit fic and historical fiction. I think I am going to finally read the first chapter of Immersions. Again, this is an ARC copy that I got from ARC Trade, so with that same theme of finally reading these ARC trade copies. My translated fiction section, and this is the one I've had on my shelf the longest. It's supposed to be about like chefing and serial killing and also food, but it's so thick for a sort of literary thriller, so I just need to see if I'm willing to commit to this or not. I'm also going to pull out Pool House by Mary H.K. Choice. This is another ARC trade, and I've heard very mixed reviews since it came out. Again, it's another case of before it officially published, there was a lot of hype, and then when it actually got released, people are like, blah. And I am going to pick one or two from historical fiction. I think I'm going to pick up Bog Queen. Actually, just the Bog Queen. I think that is good enough. And this is the literary fiction, historical fiction selections. And now all we have left is fantasy. I don't want to do this because it's a gorgeous edition, but this is what I got in my fake crate, and I actually wanted to skip the month, but I was just too late to do so. So while this is stunning, I want to see if I like it or not, and if not, I might just sell it. I think I'm also going to choose Warrior Princess Assassin. From what I know, this is a Why Choose, and I actually really like Why Choose, but I'm scared that the writing might be a bit cringy. I think I want to choose this one because this is YA teen. However, I know it's so beloved on the internet, and I never read the series, ever. So let's give it a shot. I'm like a little nervous for the writing style, if it'll be too young for me, but I'm going to give it a vibe test. This is our stack. We are auditing 22 books. Oh, I have to get to reading. Like, time's gonna get away from me if I don't. I have to insert myself reading every single one of these books. I feel like this video is gonna be forever long, or honestly, I'm just being lazy. It's gonna be a lot of editing on my part. So I might insert a few clips of me reading certain books, but I think what I'm gonna do is read everything, make my choices, and then we'll go through them one by one to see which books I kept and which I'm unhauling. But let's get cracking on reading because we gotta get going. I think I'm gonna start with my dark romance. I am very curious. We will see, but I have very high standards for dark romance because so many of them are so cringy and just awful. I tried to read Hooked the other day. Oh my god, I had to scrub my eyeballs out with bleach. It was terrible. So I really hope this does not fail me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the warnings are slightly concerning. Non-con and dub-con sex, possible harm to a child, incest. All right. All right, y'all, we are so back. That took a little bit longer than I honestly thought it would. I thought it would take like an hour, and it took a little over 2. So we are back. I think with respect to time, we're just gonna go through the stack of books I'm getting rid of and the stack of books I'm keeping with a short explanation as to why. I thought I'd go through the stack that I'm not keeping first, because I feel like that's what everyone is here for, you know, so I'll just get out of the way. The first book I will be unhauling is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. The thing that turned me off of this book was the chapters are literally a page long. Like, it starts there, ends the next page. And I feel like most people would like that, but for me, it got kind of annoying. Like, I read a few of them and it felt like I was getting very disjointed narrative structure. And yeah, the actual story didn't really grip me, so goodbye. Next on haul is Rotten Heart by Kat Dunn. I'm very sad because this edition is signed, it's UK, but the writing just didn't pull me in. I was a bit confused about our characters actually and what was going on even with the first couple chapters, so didn't really pull my interest. Next is The Hacienda. This kind of ended up being what I predicted it would be, which is very overwrought and verbose descriptions of the environment and the atmosphere and the house. And for me, like, that's not where I get my horror from. I like to get my horror from more of plot points and things happening versus creepy descriptions. So this didn't seem like one that would really keep my interest long term. Next is Spoiled Milk. Now, I actually did not, decide to unhaul this because it was slow or whatever. Let me show you something. There is a character list for this book. Hopefully it's in focus, and like where they are when it comes to the like levels of the school. That's the first page. And then there's a whole second page as well. And that was a little intimidating at first. I was like, okay, why are we getting a character list in a literary fiction? And then literally the first page, the only way it would describe these girls at this boarding school was lower years and upper years, lower fourths, upper sixths. It was just so annoying. I don't know what it was, but having to like just hear upper this, lower sixth, lower girl, upper girl. I'm just like, just seemed like it was gonna get a little convoluted with all those characters. And so yeah, it just wasn't for me. Burn the Sea, again, I'm devastated to give this away because it's gorgeous. However, as I read the description and I read more of the book, this is a historical fantasy. This is not a romantasy. So I just don't know if this is really gonna keep my interest. And as I was reading, I just didn't feel like I was going to get invested in this world enough where I could do some fantasy without the romance. I feel like I just need a dash of it, you know? And historical fiction, fantasy is just not really what I'm looking for right now. Next is Pool House. I predicted this was going to be, not for me. It's kind of interesting. This is definitely weird girl lit. Literally the first chapter, this child is talking about her almost like obsession, infatuation with her mother, and it gave me kind of creepy vibes. I was like, And I'm not sure I want to read a story about a daughter obsessed with her mother in ways that feel obviously inappropriate. So I don't know, just the topic wasn't really striking a chord with me. I'm also gonna get rid of Bog Queen. I, again, had a feeling that this would be on the chopping block and that I would unhaul it, and I am. The writing just didn't grip me. Yeah, I wish I could like explain more to you guys besides the writing didn't grip me, but it was a bit over descriptive for my taste, and I'm honestly just not sure if the plot is going to draw me in. And I don't know, it wasn't striking a chord. And we have one more book, just one more that I'm going to be getting rid of, and that is The Shippers. Now, I was turned off, not necessarily by the first chapter though, as well, but by the author's note. It starts here, yeah, it's 1, 2, 3 full pages basically talking about how she's spoiling this book. They end up getting together, which, is not really a spoiler when it comes to romances. They are marketed to have happily ever afters. But she goes on this big ass monologue about how basically we should be prioritizing and uplifting love stories and like reaffirm that there's nothing wrong with feeling good, and that people who really love literary fiction have a higher tolerance for the feeling of having no idea where a story is headed. Maybe they even like that feeling. That's fine. That's cool. It takes all kinds of reasons to make the world go around. I'm just here to talk about love stories. Like, she's just like, for some reason, being super defensive about her novel already. Like, I'm just not sure what the goal was for this. And she ends it by saying like that if you're reading this and if you like her book, that you're standing up for love. There's just like this weird like knighting and like almost self-absorbedness in this author's note that I was literally like, girl, it's not that serious. Like, we know you wrote a romance novel. We know it's gonna be a happy ever after. Like, why are you already seeming like you're defending your story? It makes me feel like the author doesn't have faith in the reader nor her own story enough to just let the story begin. She has to give us a whole monologue about how love stories are important and we should be prioritizing them. And romance writers are standing up for love. it was just bizarre. I've never read an author's note like that before. Turned me off from the book. So that's it. So that is 8 books out of the 22 that I'm getting rid of. Not bad, honestly. I kind of thought it'd be more 50-50. So the fact that I'm actually keeping more than giving away, I feel like is a win. Next, let's talk about the books that I'm keeping. First is City of Bones. I was actually pleasantly surprised by the quality of the writing in this. Obviously, the characters are young adults. They're like 15 or 16, but the writing did not come off as YA to me, at least right now. And from the jump, I was interested in the plot and where it was going to go. So I'm actually even more excited to read the series now than ever. I'm also keeping Immersions. The start of this plot about this woman's sister and how she got married to this man, but her sister disappeared shortly after, and now this man is back in town. And it just sounded really intriguing from there. So I'm excited to read this as well. Butter was actually a surprise. I would end being like, this is gonna be super boring, I'm gonna unhaul. Actually not. I really liked the prose. Now, who's to say if, literally 430 pages later, I'll feel the same. But as the story was, the first few pages, I was really into it. I'm also going to be keeping Beirut Fragments. I mean, once I got past the introduction and the timeline they give and into the actual memoir, it seemed decently intriguing. This is probably one of those books that I will really have to sit down and analyze and read critically, not just be able to like turn my brain off for, obviously. So while it's definitely more of an intimidating book, it's one I really had to sit with. It's one that does still appeal to me. I was also surprised by Our Perfect Storm. I found the introduction, kind of the prologue before time that starts this book, to be actually sort of interesting. While I basically know that this is friends to lovers, and I've heard from other people that part of the frustration of this book is that it's very much the guy is just showing obviously how much he's into this girl and she's being very oblivious, and that can be kind of annoying. I just want to see how I feel about the story itself, because I could see myself kind of coming around to that. I don't know, I really like the writing, so I'm keeping. Now you guys, when I showed you the trigger warnings for this book, I was like, oh God, like no. But actually, I was sort of intrigued by the first couple chapters. I don't know what it is. Now, again, we'll see if those type of triggers are really prominent in this book later on. Might DNF it or, not like it. But in terms of the first couple chapters, I found them to actually be really well written and crafted a really interesting atmosphere. So we're gonna keep it for now, and I hope I don't regret that. Majestic Hills actually had quite a decent little prologue opener that made me intrigued to see what the story was going to go for. And I feel like I do love a good haunted house or haunted neighborhood or creepy neighborhood story, and the fact that it's about this Black couple moving to the suburbs and then creepy things start happening, I just is so intriguing, and the writing was good, so solid. Highlights was another surprise. I felt dread and creepiness within the first chapter. Who's to say that will last throughout the entire book? As I have heard people say that this book loses its steam. It has more of a sexy, apparently romance plot to this book, but I'm kind of into it, so I'm very curious to see if I'll like it. Similarly with Itch, I felt the dread and creepiness from the first chapter, and that's all I need to know when it comes to my horrors, really. I don't know if Superfan will go downhill after the first chapter, but the first chapter itself sucked me in with this person discovering this K-pop band and becoming obsessed immediately. And as someone that was a part of fandom culture in their teenage years, as many of us were, especially if we were on Tumblr and the like, I can sort of relate to this girl's, slight obsession. Now, I know that this obsession crosses many boundaries, but it was kind of interestingly relatable. So I want to keep it and see if I'll like where the story goes. Moderation, again, is that one I mentioned where it has a strong first half, then people say it kind of goes downhill the last half. And I'll say that the first chapter was a banger. So I have high hopes. We'll see if they're dashed. But I really liked the way that the author talked about how there's only certain type of people that are able to withstand being moderators. And none of them are white people and almost none of them are men. And I thought that was very interesting. So I feel like this is one of those books that I'll be very interested in the social commentary of. The Ministry of Time, if it goes downhill, so be it. That first chapter, the first couple pages, absolute banger. I am putting this way higher on my priority reads. I was so impressed with the first couple pages I read in the first chapter. I'm into it. We shall see where it goes. We will. But this really impressed me. Age of Calamities is one that I felt like I could go into either pile, but I'm leaning more towards keeping it, so I will. The first story seems to be about Anne Boleyn, and instead of dying when she gets her head cut off, she comes back to life and seemingly is unable to die and is torturing Henry with coming back to life. And that sounded kind of fun and funky, so I'm gonna read on. And last but not least, Warrior Princess Assassin. I wasn't sure about this one, but again, the first chapter, I'm into it. I like a good political intrigue. This seems to be more of a medieval fantasy with warring nations. I kind of like that in my books. So yeah, I can kind of already tell who the first MMC is gonna be, like this dangerous guy that's like killing all these people. You can just always tell when an MMC is introduced in romantic books. It's kind of funny, even if they're like on the evil or enemy side. That being said, the MMC didn't annoy me too much, and yeah, I like the medieval sort of aura going on, so I'm excited for this one. And there you have it. That is my Read It or Unhaul It challenge. Honestly, this actually takes more work than I feel like comes across. It is a lot of brain power to read 22 different stories and the first chapter or first 3 pages of every story. I feel like I definitely need a nap, but it was fun as well. And you guys know I love unhauling books. It's just so funny how the hobby of buying books, the hobby of reading books, the hobby of reviewing books, and the hobby of unhauling books, in my mind, are 4 different hobbies. It's wild. I don't pretend to know my psyche or my brain or why I am the way that I am when it comes to books, but I just am. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you saw any of the books in my discard pile and if I should keep them, if you think they get better than the first chapter, or if you saw any books in my keep pile that you're like, girl, that first chapter was a banger, but the rest is ass. Don't bother. Let me know. I hope you guys are having an amazing day or night wherever you are. If you're looking for a book club to join in August, click the link down below in the description. Join my completely online Fable book club called Let's Get Literate. And I hope you're about to read something so deliciously amazing, scrumptious. I want that for you. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!